Hi, I'm Professor Martin, and today we are going to talk about one of my favorite success topics, and that is self-improvement. We're going to talk about three specific things. We're going to talk about why and what you want to be improving, how to measure your improvement, and when to measure your improvement. First, it's probably pretty obvious why we want to improve as students. We want to improve in general in life. We always want to be getting better, doing better, being more successful, being more intelligent, being more honest, being more kind. We always want to be better. But when it comes to being a student, there's a couple things that we want to be improving. It's not going to be enough to just improve throughout the semester on the topic that you're learning in each course. That's the bare minimum, and that's what's expected. It's expected that you're going to enter the semester knowing a whole lot less content of that course than at the end of the semester. Now, assuming you go to class and do your homework, right? Pay attention during the lectures and don't get distracted. But that's the minimum, right? That's the reason why you enroll as college students, to gain more knowledge of particular topics. But again, that's the minimum. We want to be growing overall, right? Is our grammar getting better? Are our behaviors improving? Are we showing up for class on time more than we were at the start of the semester? Are we going to bed earlier? Do we have a healthier diet? Are we doing better eating before and between classes so that we're not being disruptive during class? If you remember all of those behaviors that we talked about in a previous lesson, the positive and negative student behaviors, the ones that lead to success or the ones that might prevent you from succeeding, when we're talking about improvement, we're going to go back to those same behaviors. Ideally, for an assignment, you should have made a personalized list that is applicable to just you and very personal and private, where you really do a self-assessment over what are your current positive behaviors, what are your negative behaviors, what are the behaviors that have been leading you to success in particular areas, and what behaviors have prevented you from succeeding. If you recall back to that lesson, some of the things that we talked about in the positive category are arriving to class on time, not being distracted or disruptive during class. You don't want to disrupt the class, or you don't want to cause distractions to yourself. So you want to stay off your cell phone, you want to stay off your email, you don't want to be searching the internet while you're in class. You want to give dedicated time to your assignments and to studying, so you don't want to be doing your laundry and your homework at the same time. You don't want to be babysitting and doing your homework, or having a family dinner and doing your homework, right? These are the behaviors that if you learn to really honor them, right? Arriving to class on time, having dedicated homework and studying time, calendaring, implementing all that you've been learning about proper time management. These are the things that are going to lead to your success. These are behaviors. Remember that the behaviors are not about your character and what fundamentally makes you you. They're just behaviors. They're habits, they're patterns, they're the actions that you do that help you to be a great student or leave a lot of room for improvement. Okay, so you want to go back, and if you made it, go ahead and go grab that list, that self-assessment list that you created that has your areas that you need to improve on and the areas that you're doing really well. Okay, we're going to go back to that, and that's how we're going to measure our success. Okay, so how are we going to measure? We're going to look at the behaviors that were our strengths, and we're going to reflect back on them and say, we want to consider, are they still our strengths? If we were arriving to class on time at the start of the semester, are we still strong in that behavior? Do we still arrive to class on time? Or as the semester has progressed, have we started running late? Do we give other things our priority and just arrive to class whenever we can? Do we show up to class not dressed appropriately? Listen, I am a fan of being in pajamas as much as anyone else, right? But remember that a college environment is a professional setting. Okay, we want to be professionals. It's okay to be comfortable, but we still want to be professionals. Okay, which means arriving on time, being prepared, having pen and paper to take notes, having your phone completely put away. Show up as if you were going to a job. Remember that it's called a college career for a reason. While you are a student, it is your career. It should be your focus. It ideally should be your top priority. Okay, so take a look at your strengths. Evaluate. Are you still really strong in those areas? Once you're done with that, and you might need to shift things around, right? If it was your strength, but you're not doing it as much anymore, or even though it was a strength, you've gotten even better, right? You want to be making a note of that. And how we measure our improvement is we now go to our weaknesses, our weakness category. And what were your personal weaknesses? Whatever they were, every student is going to have their own set of weaknesses. I have my own set of weaknesses, and sometimes it varies from semester to semester. Sometimes I really struggle getting lesson plans done well in advance for 5 different classes when every course I teach is different each semester. And a lot of semesters I teach something brand new and I'm creating entire course worth of material from scratch. So if you didn't know, professors do not have their lessons handed to them. We basically are handed the learning objectives and possibly a bare bone like template of a syllabus. And we are responsible for coming up with all the materials, for writing out the homework, for writing out the answer sheets, for planning when everything is going to be taught, and for making sure that everything gets taught. Okay, so there's a lot of time management things that I have to work on. There's a lot of things that I still am learning and growing, and I have strengths and weaknesses, and I am constantly assessing. And sometimes something that was a strength kind of gets slid a little bit closer to the weakness category, right? And we're talking about a continuum, so it isn't always a very distinctive matter of it being in one category or in another. Sometimes it can just kind of be right in between, right? So if something is like the most successful it can be is way over here, and then if something is just, it is really not working and it is leading to you not being a success as a college student, right? We want to get as close to this end as we can. Okay, if you're just doing the minimum that is asked of you, you're probably going to be somewhere around the middle. Okay, that's not where we want to be. We want to be all the way to the right. And remember that even our successes, we can still improve on our successes. It is very hard to ever be able to say you are 100% in one thing and there is no way to improve it. Okay, so we're evaluating our strengths, we're evaluating our weaknesses. If we're measuring our success over this period of time, whether it's this semester or maybe from the start of the semester to the midterm or from the midterm to the final exam, even if we haven't been able to get one of our weaknesses out of the weakness category and move it over to the strength category, we still want to be assessing, have we made a little bit of improvement? If we used to show up to class halfway through the class, but now we're only 10 minutes late, that's an improvement. Okay, it's not fully, it's not a success yet, right? Because success would be to arrive to class every single class session on time or early. Early's even better, but you're getting closer. Okay, and then maybe you can work really hard and never be more than 5 minutes late, and then 2 minutes late. So sometimes it can just, it's a process. But we want to constantly be watching out for this, because if we're not paying attention to our weaknesses and we're not monitoring them and we're not trying to improve those behaviors, they become habits and they become patterns that are really hard to break. And when you get in the habit of being late or doing all of your assignments at the very last minute, you're going to carry that with you more than likely into your profession. And why do we go to college? I'm an exception, but most people go to college for their careers, right? And again, as a college career, we're learning how to be career professionals. If you get in the habit of being late to class, you are now in the habit of being late to a career. I know you think that classes don't matter and that all of a sudden you're going to wake up and you're going to have better positive behaviors when you graduate, when you become a professional, but that's just not the case, right? We are what we practice. And if you get into the habit of reinforcing those negative behaviors over and over and through many semesters, if you just keep carrying them, it's really hard to break habits, right? If you stay up too late, if you spend too much time with friends and neglect your homework, if you procrastinate over and over and your assignments aren't getting done, or you rush through assignments, or you don't do them at all, any of these things, right, that are on our weakness side, our negative behaviors that don't lead to student success, these are the things that we want to be working on improving. So when we talk about self-improvement, we want to increase our strengths and we want to try to move our weaknesses and continuously improve on them until they are now our strengths, right? We want all of our weaknesses to eventually become strengths. And I know that sounds overwhelming if you have a lot of weaknesses, but you'll get there. I promise you, you will get there, and it might take a little bit of time, but the more you work on it and the more often you're doing these evaluations, the higher and the faster, the greater likelihood you have of having more successful behaviors than unsuccessful behaviors. Okay, so when are we doing these evaluations of our self-improvement? All the time. All the time. You can do it in any sort of increment that makes sense to you. If your last class is on Thursdays, which is very common in college, maybe Thursday night is a good time to sit down and to kind of assess your week. How did it go? Are your strengths still strengths? Are your weaknesses still weaknesses? Maybe you can have a goal of picking one weakness per week and just trying to improve it even a little. Okay, sometimes it's about making very minor changes that can help make a huge difference. Set an alarm for 10 minutes sooner than you normally walk out the door if you have a problem and you're always 5 minutes late. There are little things that we can do to help us with things like that. Often it's not even a time management issue or an issue with motivation or dedication, or a lot of the reasons that we sort of give credit to our weaknesses. A lot of times it's just bad habits. It's bad habits that we can and we should and we will improve on them. Okay, so that is self-improvement. You want to be doing it because you want to grow as a student, as a career professional, as an individual. You want to be the best person that you can be. You want to be measuring your strengths and your weaknesses. Where do you fall? You want to consistently be evaluating these, right? And reward yourself. If you start seeing that your weaknesses are inching their way towards that strength category, reward yourself. Yes, it is hard work to be a student. I have been a student forever. I know how hard it is. So reward yourself. Whatever is a good reward for you, reward yourself. And then when we're going to measure all the time, consistently. Okay, it is not your professor's job to keep coming to you to say, hey, why are you always late? Right? Like, do you need help with something? Is there something that I can assist you with? Do you need referral, to a counselor to help you with time management? What can I do? It is no one else's job to get you to class on time but your own. Okay, it's no one else's job to motivate you to do your homework but your own. And if you're procrastinating, right, it's all things that you have to be responsible for. Okay, so to measure your success, you just need to be evaluating these all the time. Okay, if you're trying to save money and you do a direct deposit that happens automatically, and let's say to be nice and easy, you move $1 a day from your checking account to your savings account. Yes, it's small, and at the end of an average month, you're only gonna have $30, but it adds up. And our behaviors are the same way. If we spend an equivalent of $1 in our time, our efforts, our resources, our thoughts, to just working a little bit every single day or every single week or whatever is a good period of time that makes sense and that is reasonable and logical for you, over at the end of the month, you will always have $30 in your savings account. And then the next month it will be 60, and the next month it will be 90. Okay, so these are the things that we want to think about when we're doing and considering and evaluating our self-improvement. Okay, you've done a really great job. I know it's been a long semester. Thank you for joining me for this lesson, and I hope you have a really great day in class.